Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Essential Substance Abuse Skills webinar series. I'm Kate Trams, and today we have invited Lenny Hayes to speak on basic counseling skills. This training series is brought to you by the National American Indian and Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We are one of 4 national focus centers serving the ATTC network, which also includes 10 regional centers and a network coordinating office. To learn more, please visit our website. This series is designed to be a broad overview to assist in preparing for written alcohol and drug certification exams, to enhance existing knowledge, and to improve overall competence and treatment outcomes. Please be aware that this series is not meant to stand alone, and previous education and training is necessary in order to pass alcohol and drug certification exams. I also would note at this point that this webinar does have a lot of information that will be covered in a short amount of time, so it is a broad overview, as we mentioned, and I wanted to let everyone know that due to a national mandate, we are currently planning we have an in-person training that we offer through the ATTC for preparing for alcohol and drug exams that we are going to be scheduling over the next few months. So if that is something that your agency is interested in having, to have an in-person, I think we typically do it over the course of 3 days. It's a very intensive training and can go a little bit more in depth on this subject. So please get in touch if that's something you're interested in. Our center is an ADAC certified educational provider, and CEHs are available on request for a $15 fee. A request form is available for download in the Files pod in the webinar screen, and we'll also be sending this form in a follow-up email to all who attended. Immediately following today's webinar, you will be redirected to our GIPR evaluation. GIPR stands for the Government Performance and Results Act, and SAMHSA asks us to evaluate our events in order to comply with this act and provide improved performance assessment and accountability. This survey asks about your satisfaction with the event and will take less than 10 minutes to complete. Thank you in advance for helping us improve our programs. You will be muted for the duration of this webinar, so if you have questions about the presentation or about the Adobe Connect system, please use the Q&A pod by typing your questions and comments in at the field at the bottom. That section is an anonymous section. Your name will not necessarily show up to everyone if you wanted to submit an anonymous question, but we also have a chat box below which everyone can see. So if you wanted to comment and kind of share a thought that you wouldn't mind everyone seeing, you can do that in the chat box below. Today's webinar is presented by Lenny Hayes. He is the owner and operator of Tate Topa Consulting, and he has been involved in various boards and communities nationally and locally, and is a member of the Minnesota Minnesota HIV/AIDS Prevention and Care Council, the advisory council member for Capacity Building Center for Tribes, an advisory committee member for the Center for Native Youth, and most recently was selected as an independent consultant for the Office of Victims of Crime addressing Two-Spirit and Native LGBTQ issues. Lenny has been a friend and partner of ours here at the ATCC now for the last couple of years. We've had him consult and present for us a few times, and given his experience working as a counselor, I'm thrilled to have him here today to teach on this subject. So I'm gonna pull up his slides and I'll pass things over to him at this time. Oh, maybe we have, no, Lenny stepped out for just a moment, so.
No, I'm here.
Are you there? Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. again, I'm really grateful and thankful to be here to discuss some information in regards to basic counseling skills. One of the things I want to mention is that there is a lot of information that I'm going to be presenting on, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each of the slides. What I'm going to focus more on is things that I think that are really important, but uh, uh, I would encourage all individuals to get as much studying and theories that you possibly can. So here we go. So today, these are our goals and objectives. 1, counselor development. 2, micro-counseling skills. 3, counseling theory. 4, self-disclosure and keeping clear boundaries. And 5, cultural and ethnic issues. Oh, I did something. Okay, here we go. So number 1, counselor development. So as a counselor, we need to think about our own process of thinking and reasoning. So what I'm going to talk about is global versus linear thinking. Global thinking is a process where the answer is stated with the argument. It assumes to be true what you're trying to prove. The conclusion is a single assumption. The certain starting point. Thought processes tend to jump forward and then from side to side through the steps of a project in an effort to see the big picture and tackle those areas where they have the most interest. A is B, therefore B is A. Linear thinking is the process of thought following known step-by-step progress, whereas a response to a step must be elicited before another step is taken. Has a starting point and an end point. Open utilizing problem solving. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. A significant difference between circular and linear thinking is global thinking is a conclusion is contained in a single creative assumption. Linear thinking, the conclusion is derived from multiple assumptions. So here's the learning process. I find this really interesting because we all have our different ways of how we learn, either through visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So in my experience with working with Native American people is that what I know of is that Native people are visual learners. They're not the type of individuals to just sit and listen. They rather have be doing things with their hands or some of the things that I do with Native people that I've worked with is allowing them to bring in some art projects they may be working on or even some beading that they're doing or any craft making that they want to do while they're discussing issues with me. I find myself as an individual going back and forth from visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. That's how I learn. Global linear thinking. How do you process information presented to you? So that goes back to what I just said earlier. For me, I like to do things while I'm listening or learning. I have been doing therapy for quite a number of years, but I'm always open to continuously learn. I'm not one of those people who assumes that I know everything, so I like to learn also. And so who in your life do you believe process information on the other end of the scale from you? How do you adjust your communication when speaking with a person who processes differently than you? So it's really important to sort of discover your own way of learning and thinking um, because, you know, people will respond to you if you can build a trusting relationship with them and they feel you out. Often sometimes people are really uncomfortable when it comes to talking about issues that are really impacting them. So again, here's the question. What type of learner are you? Are you visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Are you a mixture of two or more of the following above? Or is there other um, way of learning that you know of about yourself? So now we're going to talk about integrated development, the integrated development model. So counselors develop in a step-by-step approach. Counselors are seen to move through the 3 levels of development in relatively orderly fashion relevant to professional activities. The model allows for brief regressions when counselors are faced with new or ambiguous tasks. So when we talk about integrated development, the integrated development model, people are continuously growing and growth is not linear but sporadic. Growth can be affected by changes such as the caseload, treatment setting, supervisory relationship, and the population that's being served. Yeah. There's also levels of counselor development, which means the beginning, intermediate, and advanced. There's the overriding structures, which is self and other awareness, motivation, and autonomy. Here are the 8 growth areas. Intervention skills competence, assessment techniques, interpersonal assessment, client conceptualization, individual differences, theoretical orientation, treatment plans and goals, and professional ethics. Levels of counselor development include level 1, counselors are full of trust and hope. Level 2, confusion stage, striving for independence, less imitative, sometimes frozen attitudes, ambivalence, instability. Level 3, calm after the storm, able to concentrate, demonstrates development. Learning is a lifelong process. So one of the things that I always tell people when I first decided to go to school to be a therapist, one of the things that I felt at that moment was I wanted to save the world. You know, so I wanted to be the best therapist. I wanted to learn all the theories. I wanted to find out how I could help others. But for me now, after doing therapy for 8 years, I've learned about myself is that you learn as you go along. You get all this information. You use what you can possibly use out in the field. So I know it's exciting becoming a counselor, or if you've been doing it for a while, but that's the way that I see things for myself as a therapist, continuous learning. So here's some, we're going to talk about micro-counseling skills. Now this was developed by Lenny Ivy. He's a distinguished university professor for Massachusetts and also South Florida. Ellen is author and co-author of more than 40 books and 200 articles and chapters. It's translated to 18 languages. He is the originator of the micro-skills approach. Micro-counseling skills, intentional interviewing and counseling, facilitating client development in a multicultural society. These are some of the things that he's authored. Essentials of intentional interviewing, counseling in a multicultural world. Micro-counseling is an analysis of counseling skills that looks carefully and in great detail at the elements of the counseling relationship. Regardless of the aims and methods of a counseling relationship, understanding its micro-elements helps counselors improve their counseling effectiveness. Attending and attending behavior. Attending is a counselor's interest in the clients demonstrated by eye contact, body posture, and accurate verbal following. Attending behavior encourages clients to talk and active listening. I believe for me as a therapist, one of the things that I really watch is body movement, when working with a client, and also active listening. Often sometimes we think that that we have the answers and that we need to answer all the answers for the client, but actually what we should do is motivate them to find their answers. Open questions cannot be answered in a few words. Offers encouragement and the client will speak more freely. Close questions, focus on the dialogue, tends to turn the focus on the professional and away from the client. You may get caught in a Q&A trap, so be really careful about that. Reflective listening. Nonverbal behavior, 85% of it is communication. Verbal behavior is keywords. Discrepancy in client's communication, mixed messages, contradictions, conflicts. The task is not a problem solved, but to understand where the client is coming from. And that's one of the things that I keep in mind with working with the Native American population is one of the things that I talk about is like stepping into their world and understanding where they're coming from in regards to maybe some trauma they experienced, or often one of the things that I talk about is how historical and intergenerational trauma has impacted the Native community. As you've seen in my bio, I do a lot of work in regards to Two-Spirit Native LGBTQ issues. One of the things that I do as a group therapist also in doing group therapy is often I don't stand above the individuals that I work with because often they get really uncomfortable. So what I like to do is I like to sit with them, talk with them at a table, if it's with a group of people, do projects with them, because for me as a therapist, what I want to do is to create a trusting relationship with them. Reflective listening is encouraging, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Reflecting feelings. The client's feelings either stated or implied as expressed by the counselor. Feelings of a client can be nonverbal or verbal. Reflective meaning. Finding the deeply held thoughts and feelings underlying life experiences. Paraphrase is to thoughts as reflection as to feelings. It breaks down complex behaviors into parts. Empathy. Understanding what the client is experiencing and putting oneself in the client's place. Functions of empathy include builds a firmer relationship with the client, enables counselors to better understand clients' behavior. Common problems with conveying empathy is language and cultural differences between clients and counselor. I know one of the things that, because I have presented in front of non-Native individuals, and one of the things that I know that non-Native therapists or counselors struggle with is understanding that Native people do not always do eye contact. And so often sometimes that's misinterpreted as a different form of behavior, but as Native people, we're taught not to make eye contact, especially when we're around elders. So, which of the micro skills has the most challenge for you? Attending behavior, open versus closed questions, reflective listening, and empathy. And like I said earlier, I think it's really important, and also I would say to encourage to look at yourself in your development as a counselor. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Ask questions like that to yourself. So now we're going to go into the counseling perspective. So we're going to be talking about theories. So psychoanalytical perspective consists largely of using methods to bring out the unconscious. Working through the past to experience relationships, focuses on child experiences, Training is required to be on the scope of most counselors. An advanced degree in psychology or psychiatric, excuse me, is necessary. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Sigmund Freud. And like I said earlier, I'm going to go there's a lot of theories that are going to be presented. And so I'm going to go through the theories really quickly. Sigmund Freud says that there's a struggle between the life and death instincts at the heart of human nature, dynamics of the unconscious and its influence on behavior, role of anxiety motivates us to do something, personality structure is divided into components id, ego, and superego, development of personality at various periods. Eric Erickson brought into the development perspective beyond early childhood, establishing balance between ourselves and our social world by a social approach. Crisis and equivalent to a turning point, ego developing strength and ways to deal with life's tasks, and personality stages. Carl Jung, psychological aspect of personality development during midlife, views human positively, individualization, spiritual approach, meaning of life, constant development, growth, and moving toward a balanced and complete level of development. The limitations of psychoanalytical perspective is the lack of ego, strength needed for change, biological predisposition, great responsibility placed on parenting mothers and the cost. Contributions are an essential framework for looking at behavior. Past experiences may pertain to the current life. The value and role of transference. Overuse of ego defenses can keep clients from functioning effectively, and the role of early child development. One of the things that that I'm also reminded of when working with Native American people as an example of transference is that I have to be aware of my own issues when working with Native people, because if I'm not aware of my own issues and the client's issues will intertwine, because there's a lot of similarity in what happens within Native American families. And I imagine a lot of you know the struggles and challenges that Native American people face. Alfred Adler, his goal, in his series, it says the goal to help clients identify and change their mistaken beliefs about life and thus participate more fully in a social world. People need to understand and confront basic mistakes. Family is an important factor. Cooperative theory between clinician and client. I'm actually an alumni of the Adler Graduate School here in Minneapolis. I do love his theories. I believe personally that his beliefs or his theories lines up with some of our Native American beliefs. Here are the limitations. Difficult to validate the basic hypothesis. Detailed explanation of early childhood, early memories, and dynamics within the family. And here are the contributions. Working on an action plan to make changes in life. People are social, goal-seeking decision makers. Subjectively understanding the unique world of an individual. Sensitive to cultural and gender issues. Excuse me. Existential perspective. This was created by Viktor Frankl and Rollo May. And this perspective says that influences a counselor-client therapeutic process. We are not the victim of circumstances because to a large extent we are what we choose to be. self-awareness in therapy, a process of searching for the value and meaning in life, individual worldview. People are faced with the anxiety of choosing to create an identity in a world that lacks meaning. Limitations. Lacks a systematic statement of the principles and practices of psychotherapy, lacks rigorous methods, concepts are abstract, highly focused on the philosophical assumption of self-determination. Contributions include the person is the central focus, emphasis on the human quality of the therapeutic relationship, individual freedom to redesign his or her life by choosing awareness. Person-centered perspective. Carl Rogers. What it is a capability of self-directed growth, potential for understanding self, resolving own problems without therapist's direct intervention. The therapist's role is to be rather than to do something. Focuses on the person. Each of us has within us by nature a potential that we can actualize and through which we can find meaning, innate striving for self-actualization. Here are the limitations. Therapists tend to be supportive without being challenging. Limited techniques attending and reflecting. Therapist training, there needs to be more emphasis on the attitudes of the counselor. All individuals may not have within them a growth potential or ability to trust their own inner directions. The contributions are stated concepts, non-directive counseling. There's just Gestalt perspective. Is based on the premises that people must find their own way in life and accept personal responsibility if they hope to achieve maturity. Therapists do not aim to change their clients, rather assist in experiencing all feelings, avoid interpretations, and focus on the client's behavior technique-based. Client's self-awareness. Here are the limitations. De-emphasize of the cognitions of thinking, not for all clients, especially if there's abuse history. Dangerous as a result of the therapist's power to manipulate the client through techniques. Contributions, the action approach pays attention to verbal and nonverbals. Compassionate confrontation, perspective on growth and enhancement. Control and reality perspective. William Glasser rejects the medical model. Clients live in an external and internal world. Counselor's function is as a teacher or model. Focus on personal responsibility and gaining control. Total behavior. Clients have psychological needs for belonging, power, freedom, and fun. And here's the limitations. De-emphasizes on the counseling process, doesn't take into account the unconscious, vulnerable to the counselor who assumes the role of an expert in deciding for others. The contributions include short-term focusing, dealing with conscious behavior. Contract approach, punishment and blaming is a basic reality. Psychosis can be related to unfulfilled needs. Behavior perspective. Here's Arnold Lazarus. It's an interplay between individual and environment, emphasis on specific goals at the onset of the therapy. It's based on a scientific method. Clients are expected to engage in specific actions to deal with problems. Therapist uses a summarization, reflection, clarification, and open-ended questioning. Therapy is a collaborative partnership and the three major areas of development, which includes Here are the limitations. Changes behaviors but not changes feelings. Ignores the importance of relational factors. Does not provide insight. Treats symptoms rather than causes. Involves control and manipulation by the therapist. Here are the contributions, which include cognitive factors and subjective reactions of people to the environment, systematic behavioral techniques, and ethical accountability. Here is a cognitive behavior perspective. It was created by Albert Ellis, Aaron Beck, and Donald Meckenbaum. Rational emotional behavior therapy, thinking, judging, deciding, and doing. Emotions can stem mainly from beliefs, evaluations, interpretations, and reactions to life situations. Active directed techniques, challenge belief system, self-awareness, therapeutic relationship, collaborative relationship between client and the therapist, the teacher and role model. Psychological distress is largely a function of disturbances in cognitive processes, focuses on changing conditions to produce desired changes in effect and behavior. Clients need to assume an active role. Here are the limitations. Does not encourage clients to address unfinished business. Personal warmth is not essential effective therapy. Transference. Less concerned with unconscious factors and ego defenses. Confrontational therapy. Advantages and disadvantages. Contributions include self-responsibility in maintaining self-destructive ideas and attitudes. Emphasis on putting newly acquired insights into action. Teaches clients to carry on their own therapy. Comprehensive and therapeutic practice. So one of the things that I know of, there's been a lot of studies in regards to the cognitive behavioral perspective. What I know of is that for me as a therapist, I use this type of theory when working with Native people. They respond well to this type of therapy. And now we're going to go into the family system perspective. So what it is a cause of problem understood by viewing the role of the family, unresolved emotional fusion to one's family, emotional detached therapist, teacher, model, coach, here and now interactions between family members, techniques, family mapping, enactments, and reframing. Here are the limitations. Client may be lost in the system and language, dyads, triads, functional, dysfunctional, stuck, and meshed, disengaged. There needs to be more research needed. Contributions include neither the individual nor the family are blamed for a particular dysfunction. The family is empowered, and understanding the individual within a system. Integrative perspective. Creating an integrative stance is truly a challenge. It does not simply mean picking bits and pieces from theories in a random and fragmented matter. It is important to ask which theories provide a basis for understanding thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Must have an accurate, in-depth knowledge of each theory. You cannot integrate what you don't know. It is an art to when, where, and why to use a particular intervention. A long-term venture. Caution, do not harm. So here's a poll question number 3. Which of the theories are you most drawn to? Psychoanalytic, Adlerian, existential, person-centered, Gestalt, choice reality, behavior therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, family systems, and integrated. So one of the things that I know as a therapist is that what I do is that not all theories work on individuals. So I basically find what I think or what I know may work for the client. If not, so be willing to go change back and forth, because one theory may not work for one individual, but may work for another. So I remind people that it's okay to go back and forth in working with individuals. Assessing readiness to change. So this is developed by Prochaska and De Clemente. The stages of change were developed by these two psychologists in the 1980s in an effort to capture the change process in cigarette smokers and treatment. It has since been used to characterize changes in other addictive disorders, including alcoholism. So here's their cycle of change. And it begins at pre-contemplation, followed by contemplation. First one, not considering change, unaware of problem. Avoidance, yeah, but often, you see, I'll see this in individuals. Determined to change, developing the plan, preparation. Action includes change started. Maintenance, change becomes normal in 1 to 2 years. And oops, a backslide relapse. Self-disclosure and keeping clear boundaries. Self-disclosure and keeping clear boundaries includes sharing personal, emotional, and experiential information. Self-disclosure on the part of the counselor requires careful consideration. Consider alternatives. Client needs always come first. Do not harm. Self-disclosure barriers include slow down or even stop the sharing process. Clients may lose confidence in a counselor. Clients may move away from self-focus and focus. So one of the things that I want to share with you is when I was in school, and one of the things that I used to sort of freak out about was that my fellow classmates, there would be certain individuals who would cry with their clients. And for me, I felt really uncomfortable. I didn't think that was okay. But one of the things that I've learned, and not that I've done it, there may have been times where I may have become tearful with clients that I was working with, but working within the Native American community, that sometimes it's okay to share a little about yourself, but to be really careful about how much you share. Because with working with Native American people, one of the things that I really, really try to create is that trusting and respectful relationship with them. Because I understand and know of what Native people have been through and what they're going through. So anyway, getting back to that story, one of the things that, like I said, it made me really uncomfortable when I would see or even hear of counselors allowing themselves to cry with clients until I was supervised by a counselor who has many, many years of counseling, and her reminding me that we're human and that it's okay to be that way, but we need to sort of remember to create healthy boundaries with our clients. So how often did informal discussion occur? 40% of all related sessions. On an average, discussions occurred once or twice per session. 68% of counselors had informal discussions 3 or more times in at least one of their sessions. 20% of counselors initiated informal discussions in 75% or more of their sessions. So, it's really important to remember a client will know if it's about you or if it's about them. So it's really important to remember how much information you share with them. If you turn the session around about you and your struggles and challenges or what you may have done or this and that, that will often turn the client away. The client is aware as much as we don't think they are, but they are. So here's a poll question number 3. How helpful do you think informal conversations are in therapeutic sessions? A little helpful, moderately helpful, or very helpful? So now we're going to get into cultural and ethnic issues. So culture is a key element which enhances opportunity for change. What is culture? Culture is everything that people have, think, and do as members of a community or society. Maternal objects, ideas, values, attitudes, and behavioral patterns. A template that shapes behavior and consciousness within human society. It's dynamic, it's shared, and it's learned. Our culture is shaped by history, religion, ethnicity, and race, geographic group membership, subculture. The addressing model, what does it do? It gives us a framework for understanding the effect of diverse cultural influences on therapists and clients' worldviews, helps us to recognize the area where we identify within a dominant group versus various minority groups, become more aware of how identification with dominant group can limit knowledge and experience of groups we do not identify with. Why is this important? The knowledge of clients identifies gives us clues to how clients see the world, what they value, how they may behave in certain situations, how others treat them. The more we know, the closer our hypothesis will be to the client's realities, the greater our credibility, efficiency, and accuracy. The addressing model, A, age and generational influences, D, the developmental disability, disability acquired later in life, religion and spiritual orientation, ethnic and racial identity, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, indigenous heritage, national origin, and gender. Privilege versus oppression. We all have addressing areas of privilege and oppression. We tend to be more aware of areas of oppression. Privilege areas present a greater challenge for therapists. We need to consciously work to increase our awareness about our areas of privilege. This is really important, especially with what's going on today in the world, especially in our country. One of the things that I have conversations with my colleagues about is oppression, and even what, I'm going to just simply say it, white privilege. Often, it's really important to check ourselves, because if we don't check ourselves, then often it interferes with the relationship with the client. Increasing our awareness. Investigate our own cultural heritage. Pay attention to the influence of privilege on understanding of cultural issues and work with clients. Educate ourselves through diverse sources of information. Develop sustained diverse relationships. Learn from diverse groups, not simply learn about diverse groups. Well, one of the things that I would like to say about that is what I remind people to do is when you work with a Native person, it's really important to find out where that Native person comes from, what tribe, because not all Indian people operate in the same way. Each tribe has different beliefs, values, etc., but has similarities. They're all different but have similarities. So it's really important to find out where that person is from. If you're working with a Native American person, learn about their culture, learn about their values, because often we always assume that everything is the same, and it's not. I talk about when I work with Two-Spirit LGBTQ people, learning about the term Two-Spirit is not accepted across the country in different tribes, especially with the Navajo people. The Navajo people do not use the term Two-Spirit as an example. So what I'm saying is that it's important for you to find out about a tribe. Whoever you're working with, that's really, really important. So this is Dr. Dwayne Mackey, his award for excellence in Native American education, research, and human rights. This is in memory of him. He was born in October 5th, 1938, and passed away in March 11, 2010. Prairie Lands ATC Native American Initiative Regional Coordinator, who dedicated his work in providing education to enhance knowledge to better serve Native Americans. So we're going to go into talking a little bit more about Native Americans. There's 565 federally recognized American Indian tribes and Alaskan Native groups in the U.S. There's more than 250 different languages. There's different cultures, traditions, histories, identities. In 2010, the census, there was 5.2 million people identified as American Indian or Alaskan Native alone in a combination with another race, up from 4.1 million in 2000. There's an estimated IHS service population of 2 million individuals. Now, with the Dakota and Lakota and Nakota bands, I identify as a Dakota, and I'm from the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate. And here are the Santee bands, Sisseton, Wahpeton, Spirit Lake, Leaf Shooters. The Teton bands are the Oglala, Brule, Hakpapa, Sans Arc, Tuketo, Blackfeet. The Yankton bands include the Yankton bands, excuse me. So here's a picture, land transfers from Native Americans to whites. So look at the picture to the left, 1775. That land was Indian land. Now look at 1894, how much the land that was taken away from Native American people. It's really important to also, when working with Native American people, to really get educated and be aware of the impact of historical intergenerational trauma. It's a really deep, deep wound. My experience in both, because I'm also a marriage family therapist as well as a drug and alcohol counselor, so For me, it's really sort of understanding what has happened to our people, to my people in regards to historical trauma, and understanding how trauma is passed from generation to generation, um, and really, really sort of understanding how to work with Native people. Native Americans' cultural values uh, include harmony with the environment. Individuals are part of a larger system, respect for elders, children are the future, the importance of helping others, and prayer and traditions. These are really important for Native American people. So the development of interventions must consider specific socio-political history, the continuing transfer of unresolved trauma and grief across generations, socioeconomic conditions, current and past experiences of racism and oppression. And we know that, today there's just so much going on in our country, and really being aware. Here's some tips for the clinician. Be aware of the many ways of perceiving, understanding, and approaching health, wellness, and healing. Be careful not to misinterpret stereotype, or otherwise mishandle encounters. Be aware that ethnicity is used to stereotype diversity and can lead to distrust. Assess the degree of altercation in the target group. Seek to become more culturally responsive. Take the risk to discover and own biases and stereotypes. There's so much to learn, as being a clinician. And like I said, what I said earlier was when I was fresh out of school, I wanted to save the world. I wanted to learn and use everything that I learned in regards to working with people. But through the years in doing therapy, I found out a lot about myself and how I work with people. One of the things that I do as a therapist, I identify as a Dakota two-spirit male. But one of the things that I think that are really important for me when working with people is having compassion. And not only having compassion for others, but also having compassion for myself. There's studies that have been in regards to people who have experienced trauma, that they are more compassionate to others, but not compassionate enough to themselves. So this whole process of becoming a counselor or therapist is really to find out about yourself and how you're going to work with people. Like I said earlier, I've learned and I've grown by watching others, working with my colleagues, talking with them, asking questions about, so what do you think about this technique? What are your thoughts? Always keeping an open mind about learning. That's really, really important. And, if any of you are Native Americans, getting in touch with your own cultures and your values, how do they work for you in life? How do you work with people? But also, too, it's really important to really, really look at your boundaries. One of the things that I know of with Native people is that there's such a huge percentage of our people who suffer with codependency. So it's really important to look at your own codependency issues, because often, if we're doing the work of our clients, then we're not being effective for them. We need to encourage them to do their work, and leaving your work at work. I know sometimes that can be really difficult. That was one of the things that I've learned through this process in the years that I've been a therapist is really learning how to leave my work at work, and being okay with it. Being okay and knowing that I don't have the ability to save everybody or think that I have to save everybody. It's okay to be compassionate and loving to others. one of the things I think is really important about being a therapist is self-care, um, practicing self-care. For me, I remember when I first started, when I did my internship and I worked for a Native organization, and I remember many times that I would walk out of my internship just wanting to cry because I sat with individuals, hearing their truth, hearing their stories of trauma, and I would have this huge weight on me. And I remember walking out and I would just want to cry. And I went and talked with an elder who also worked at the organization. I sat down and let her know what was going on, how I was feeling. And one of the things that she said to me is that she said that you need to smudge yourself down. Smudge yourself down before and after therapy session. Share it with your clients. And when you go home, she would say to me, like, go for a walk, watch a movie, take a hot bath, do something for yourself so that you can detach from what you experience. And we all know, I mean, I'm sure some of you know the phrase secondary trauma. So we have to be really careful, and I'm always about self-care, talking about self-care and how important self-care is. Here are some cultural considerations. Tips for become culturally responsive. The primary source of cultural information should be your client. Multicultural skills must be personalized. Learn from your mistakes. That's really, really important because we don't always make the right decisions. And like I said, I've learned. I mean, I've made mistakes. There have been times where I worked with a client and I didn't fit for the client, and that's okay. And being okay with that, being okay with it, and not allowing it to hurt my own ego or my own self in regards to not being effective for a client. So it's okay. It's really important to know that. Learn to reframe problems, recognize your biases and cultural perceptions, view psychological problems as social constructs. So in summary, we talked about counselor development, micro-counseling skills, counseling theory, self-disclosure and keeping clear boundaries, cultural and ethnic issues. So I guess since we have a half hour, if there's anybody that has a question, please feel free, and I will answer in the time that we have.
Technology Transfer Center. We are one of 4 national focus centers serving the ATTC network, which also includes 10 regional centers and a network coordinating office. To learn more, please visit our website. This series is designed to be a broad overview to assist in preparing for written alcohol and drug certification exams, to enhance existing knowledge, and to improve overall competence and treatment outcomes. Please be aware that this series is not meant to stand alone, and previous education and training is necessary in order to pass alcohol and drug certification exams. I also would note at this point that the, this webinar does have a lot of information that will be covered in a short amount of time, so it is a broad overview, as we mentioned, and I wanted to let everyone know that due to a national mandate, we are currently planning we have an in-person training that we offer through the ATTC for preparing